Durbania, I'm Durbin, and I'm super excited to talk Rogue One. Now, last year, when we were nearing Rogue One, when it was about to release on the big screen, Sean Chandler of Sean Chandler Talks About, he joined me, and we did a theological analysis on The Force Awakens. And now, as we're getting on The Last Jedi, Sean Chandler is back!
Here I am!
And we're gonna do Rogue One. We're gonna theologically analyze this movie, dig deep into it. Sean, tell us where we can find your channel that is exploding and probably soon to surpass Cody Leach's channel.
Woo! Or by the time this airs, fingers crossed, already has. Yeah, my name's Sean Chandler. You can find me on YouTube at Sean Chandler Talks About or on Twitter at Kirk Never Died. But yeah, on Sean Chandler Talks About, I do movie reviews, TV reviews, and these ranking videos where I take movies and do them from the worst to the best in under 10 minutes when possible. And really just love to talk movies, and would love to talk movies with you. So if you join me over there, talk with me down in the comment sections. I'd love to get to know you and debate movies with you.
His ranking videos are actually just so awesome. Like, it's so cool the way he takes this like large list and does it that quickly. Like, what was it, the Marvel one? You did that in under 10 minutes? Like, that's insane.
Yep.
Gosh.
There's been some people contesting it, claiming that my file is 10 minutes and 1 second. But actually, my raw file was 9 minutes and 59 seconds, and YouTube just rounded up. But yeah, in 9:59, talked about 17 movies, 17 movie reviews in 10 minutes.
Well, make sure you go check all that stuff out over there at his channel and hit the subscribe button over there. So, right now, we are jumping into Rogue One as we get excited for The Last Jedi to release. Now, I've been kind of going through the original trilogy, building up, doing theological analyses on those. It's amazing how deep these movies get with the Force, with these characters, and just so many hidden pictures in there. So, Sean, when you're watching Rogue One, what do you see just beneath the skin?
Desire for power and a desire, most specifically, for significance in the wrong places takes you to horrible places. So Krennic is a guy that just desperately wants to be important and to matter and to have power and to be able to be respected by his peers. And through this whole process, what does this look like? Well, it looks like him developing an evil weapon to give a sociopath the power to rule the galaxy with an iron fist. And Krennic doesn't even believe in the cause of that, it doesn't seem. He doesn't care at all about the cause. He doesn't seem concerned about whether that's a good thing, a bad thing. His concern is, hey, there's a thing I can do. There's a person I can exploit at any cost to make a name for myself. And this idea of just ego out of control and our vanity, our pride, and when that gets control and runs amok, it takes us to horrible places. And you just watch this movie and what happens to him, and it's just a tragic story of the grotesque nature of what happens when we turn to the wrong places.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting about his pride? Like, he is blinded by it to the point that he can't even see that he's almost a joke to the people he's building the weapon for. I mean, the Emperor, I don't even think acknowledges him, but then you have that awesome scene with Vader using the Force and choking him.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
It's so interesting how his ambition and where he's looking to power, it's blinded him to the reality that's going on around him.
Are you kidding me? I'm blind.
I kind of had a character study too when I was looking at this. And so I was looking at one character played by Donnie Yen. Correct me if I'm saying his name wrong. Chirrut? I can't say his name. Donnie Yen. He's blind. And then you have Jyn Erso, who can see. But what's so interesting is kind of the picture that these two characters convey. One of my favorite things in the Bible, it says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." And then the Amplify adds, "Living our lives in a manner consistent with our confident belief in God's promise." And I like that confident belief in God's promise because Jyn Erso, she has her sight, but she has no confident belief in anything whatsoever. So she can see things physically, but what she can see, she's reading way too much into it. And everything that she sees. First off, something that caused legit pain, watching her mom die and watching the Empire take her dad. That's just legit pain right there. On top of the fact, her entire life is shaped by a war, it is shaped by a rebellion, it's shaped by fighting, and then Saul, the guy that was taking care of her when she's 16, leaves her. And can she even look to see that he left her for her protection because people were picking up on the fact that she was an Urso and an Urso was building a Death Star? And so, people are starting to turn on her. No, she couldn't even see that. And so what's interesting is, even though she can see, she really can't see. She's so blind. And in fact, one of the most telling lines with her is in the beginning, she's meeting Saul again for the first time in many, many years. And he's like, do you not even care about the rebellion and the cause? And he goes, do you not care that the Empire's flag spans the galaxy? She goes, well, you don't notice if you don't look up. I mean, these are powerful telling lines that she's stepping out of a fight. She's stepping out of something that doesn't matter because she's looking at herself. She's looking at her own pain. She's looking at her own loneliness. And so she is really kind of just filled with fear. She's filled with self-loathing. She's filled with bitterness. On the other side of this, you have Donnie Yen, who's blind, and he sees more clearly than everybody in this movie. He doesn't have his sight, but here he is, this temple guard for the Kyber Crystal Temple, and there's nothing left to guard. But his life is full of purpose, even though there's nothing left to guard. And it looks like, he's kind of one of those guys on the streets. I'll tell you your fortune, you give me some money, because the way he calls Jen over and things like that, it kind of looks like that's what he's doing. I'm not sure if that's what he's doing. But because he is so reliant on the Force, he is comfortable in his own skin. He is at peace being able to sit there and not even having really nothing to guard. He just has peace about what he's doing and where he's at. And then when the call comes, when Jin shows up, he has peace about stepping out into that call and doing what's in front of him. And one of my favorite, most telling lines with him is when, all the stormtroopers are there to attack, and then he steps out there and without sight beats the living tar out of every single one of these stormtroopers. What is so telling to me is how he says,
I fear nothing. All is as the Force wills it.
I mean, his trust in the Force was that confident that he just didn't have fear. I'm sure he was afraid of things, but he didn't act in fear at all. Even to the point at the end, he wasn't even afraid of his own death because he knew he was going to continue after that death forever as part of the Force. And so here he is robbed of physical sight, but because of his reliance on what can't be seen anyway, he had clearer sight than anybody else.
Yeah, it's just fascinating the way kind of that works of the visual illustrations in that, or not visual illustrations, those words mean the same thing, visual metaphors in that language that it uses in the movie. Like, oh wow, it's fascinating that we're in this world of Jedis, and normally they're so visual that the Jedis are the lead characters in it, but in this story, they're not. They're these side characters that are not present, and so then it's the blind guy that they choose as the one that sees most clearly what's going on, which is there are things beyond what we can see happening. Just fascinating the way that worked out. I know in there you talked about purpose, and that was the other one thing that kind of struck me about kind of the characters in this, the character studies, is that each of them have either a lack of purpose or a purpose that's misguided or a purpose that they're pursuing in the wrong ways. So if you just kind of look at, obviously Krennic has a totally wrong purpose, but we're all seeking significance. We all are designed with so much potential, and so we're all looking for meaning in what we're doing throughout this life. So whether we channel that in the right direction, the wrong direction, pursue right things the wrong way, we're all doing that. Krennic, wrong methods, wrong goal. Cassian, right mission, wrong actions, pursuing it the wrong ways. And then you got Jyn Erso, who has no purpose at the beginning of the movie. So as the movie progresses, you have two of these people start to align properly as they see a clear purpose and meaning in what they're trying to do, and clear way to do that that's proper. It's not, Cassian shooting guys in alleys to cover up what he's doing to save his own butt. And so they align with the correct mission and with the correct purpose, as well as correct actions along the same way. And I just think that's interesting with the way that we're all designed with so much potential, created in the image of God, so much potential. We're designed to long for more, to long for meaning and significance. And in the absence of a proper meaning, we drift toward, we find meaning in things. We find in this craziest, stupidest things. And like just, as I mentioned before, Krennic is a perfect example of that. In the absence of clear boundaries. You drift towards pursuing right things in wrong ways. And you see Cassian is the example of that. And I just think so many times of the ways that we drift so easily towards wrong purposes, wrong goals, and wrong methodology. I guess orthodoxy and orthopraxy, I guess, to use bigger words than some of that.
Nice. You know what's interesting is that's the whole saga of Star Wars, the tension between the light side and the dark side, and how easily we are drawn to the dark side. I said Empire Strikes Back is the key to understanding the Force, and I stand by that because one of the things said in that is the light side is definitively stronger than the dark side, but the dark side is easier and it's more seductive. And there's something natural in us that is bent and it goes towards the darkness easier than it goes towards the light, which is why characters like Krennic and all them, and Cassian even doing the right mission and doing the wrong steps to get there, it's so easy to fall that way just because of that natural pull that is in us, which takes me back to Donnie Yen. And the thing that I just loved about his character and latched onto his character from the very first time I saw this movie, he was the character in this film with the absolute most confidence. And he couldn't see. He was the one with the biggest physical handicap. He is the one who should have had the utmost problem with everything. But this was the guy who rested confidently in the Force. He just totally committed himself to it 110%. And the light side, not the dark side, not the Sith side, the light side of the Force. And having committed himself confidently to that, this guy had gifts. Like he could tell when Cassian was about to kill because he could read the Force around him. I mean, so he had gifts. He can read a situation. And so because he would rest in those gifts and rest in the strength of the Force, he stepped out with more confidence than everybody else in this movie. And to me, that's just that picture of God. Like, yeah, it's easy for us to be bent the wrong way. It's easy for us to go for the dark side of things. But when we step back and rest in God, it takes care of that fear that could rule our lives. There's things we got to keep in check ourselves. But I'm just saying, when we rest in God and we put our lives in his hands, it's like that. It's like what you see in that picture with Donnie Yen.
And I guess the final one that kind of comes to my mind in terms of kind of what he pulled out of this one, the simple concept of the Death Star, which kind of is this pinnacle picture of the depravity of man, the depths to which we can be inhumane to mankind. The simple concept that someone would come up with this idea of, let's create a weapon designed to kill 6 billion people at once so that we can create fear in the universe so people will do what we say. That's so twisted. That's so dark. And that there'd be a rationale, whether that's either it's worth it. I want to be in charge, so it's worth killing all these people. Or whether it's, no, I actually believe this cause. That the depths to which our depravity and our sin will drive us to cuckoo. And we naturally drift towards cuckoo. We naturally drift towards sin. Sin makes us stupid. And next thing we know, we're building a Death Star to maintain our sinful, delusional senses of grandeur.
Yes. That is a powerful image. I didn't even think about that. But that is powerful, and it does show the depths to which we sink. And what I love is Episode 6, where for all the depths that Vader sank to, for all the depravity he went for, in the end, that dude was still redeemed. That redemption is greater still than even the depravity of man to reach down to those darkest parts and lift us back up if we let it.
Yep, and that's where you take the story. This one's a little bit trickier to analyze because it's in that middle section.
Yeah,
where it's not a complete story, and so you get some of these images of Krennic and his ambition driving him to just utter depravity, or just reckless abandon or reckless concern for human lives, just doesn't care because he's so pursuing something. So you have these ideas of these character studies of what power does to people, but you don't have the complete picture that you see in the other stories of kind of redemption or someone becoming something. Is this one gets a little bit tricky because you don't have in and of itself, you don't have that Episode 6 resolution to it, or you don't have, Episode 5's story of Luke's progress that has a completion to it. This one's, we're just seeing that middle tale of people the end conclusion for all of them is dying. Whether it's Krennic dying because of his own ambitions, or two people finding purpose and finding the right thing to do and dying for that proper purpose so that others may live, which in itself I guess has certain Messiah elements to it, that they died so that to stop this thing and save other planets. But you have some of those images, but you don't have that complete redemption story in it so much. Maybe a little bit for Cassian. Cassian has a little bit in that of sees the darkness of his ways and directs it in the right direction. And instead of, where I guess the benchmark for Cassian would be that he starts out as a person that sees danger and sacrifices someone else's life to save his own. And he ends the movie, I will sacrifice my life so that you may live, which that's the picture of what, Christ did in selfless sacrifice.
When you were talking, it just reminded me of, like, Rogue One is kind of like the book of Job. Because you have the book of Job, all these horrible things are happening to this one dude, but it is this one period of time and this one dude, and we hadn't even gotten to the New Testament yet, where redemption got its complete and full fulfillment, where we get into these deeper things about God and the deeper truths, and as more things get poured out. And so, yeah, like Rogue One is kind of like the book of Job. It's kind of a little island, kind of in the middle of this, but we do get individual character redemption arcs. Like Jen, she had no purpose. She was looking inward at herself, and about halfway through this movie, when her father dies and she sees that he was still believing in the cause to the end and things like that, things begin to turn around for her. And in fact, it was the love of her father and the sacrifice of her father that really woke her up to, this is real, and I need to take a stand here somewhere. And so it is a fascinating thing. So yeah. Well, that's what Sean Chandler sees as he dives deep theologically. This is what I see when I dive deep theologically. How about you? Let's have a theological conversation about Rogue One in the comments. Can't wait to get that going with you. While you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Would love to have you. Hit the bell so you're notified the moment I drop more videos like this and movie reviews and all kinds of other stuff. And one more time, Sean Chandler, tell us where they could go subscribe to you.
So if you want to subscribe to my channel, head on over to Sean Chandler Talks About. Just search for that. It'll pop up. And check out some of my ranking videos and give me your ranking videos along with them. And let's have some lively discussions.
It is awesome. So go check out his channel. Have great discussions with him about ranking videos. Subscribe over there. Subscribe over here. It's going to be a good time had by all. I'm Durbin.
I'm Sean.
Thanks for checking out Durbania.